more money that I make, the more I come to realize that every single person has money problems.
The average family in the US is struggling to keep up financially right now. And according to Motherly's 2024 State of Motherhood survey, a majority of mothers reported struggling with living expenses and student debt. For most families, they just can't simply keep up with the rising costs of living. When it comes to groceries, childcare, housing costs, the cost of living and inflation has made it impossible for them to keep up because wages are stagnant, even though middle class wages are historically at a high right now. It has become increasingly difficult for people to keep up with living what would have been considered a middle class lifestyle in previous generations. Many families are living paycheck to paycheck right now, and in order to accommodate their finances, they're dipping into their savings, they're racking up credit card debt, and they're relying on family to help them make ends meet. 27% of respondents actually reported receiving financial support from their parents on a regular basis. And obviously, that only includes respondents who are privileged enough to have access to families who can support them financially. I think it's important to remember that this is much bigger than an individual failure when it comes to managing finances. Families cannot keep up, and cutting back on expenses like coffee or lattes is not going to make
If I don't know how I'm going to eat, you think I have a mindset for anything you're talking about? The only thing I want to know is how am I going to pay my bills? There are people right now that feel like that walking around. Now they feel like they're drowning. So if you get somebody's head above water for, let's just say 3 months, then we could talk about the LLCs, the mentorship, the real money. But when I'm drowning, the only thing I'm trying to do is get above water.
This is why I feel like the cost of living has never been as bad as it is right now. Because it used to be when the cost of living was high, it was for the things that you need in life. Food, gas, shelter, etc. All of those things cost a lot of money. Right now, all of those things still cost a lot of money. And also, I feel like it's just expensive to just be alive. Like, I feel like my life as soon as I wake up is literally just me putting down a credit card, and it's just a tab. And life is a bartender. And it's just like, what are you going to have? And I'm just like, I'm okay. I don't really need anything today. And it's just like, oh, really? Well, if you're going to be here, you're going to need to spend money. And I'm just like, what do you mean here? I'm just in the world. And it's just like, yeah, you have to buy something now. It's even getting to the point where, like, I feel like even my thoughts are getting expensive, you know? Like I could just have the thought of like, my nose is a little stuffy. And then all of a sudden, I open up my phone 10 minutes later and have 12 ads for like, oh, you have a pollen allergy and you got to buy these anti-pollen allergy pills or you're going to suffocate in your sleep. Sleep is the only place I still feel kind of safe. But even there, it's like I could have sleep problems for one night and then I wake up feeling kind of groggy and all of a sudden I'm getting targeted ads for melatonin gummies. It's like all of our necessities are still expensive, and then also just every increment of our life.
I work at a restaurant that's not making any money anymore. And the owner of the restaurant told me that today that he is not profiting any money from the business that I work at. And I don't know what that means for the company. I don't know what that means for me. But the job that I'm working at is no longer making any money. So I know that eventually I'm not going to be able to work there anymore. That's one thing. Secondly, where I live in an Airbnb in Miami, right? So I pay regular market rent, but it's technically an Airbnb. So the owner of the Airbnb is not making any money either. So eventually they're going to give up this Airbnb, and I can't afford anything else in Miami. So I'm double screwed, and it's like my life is not stable. But I'm stable. I'm stably working, getting up, going to work every single day, not calling out, none of that. Paying my rent on time, paying my bills on time. And everything around me, like inflation is hitting everything around me to the point where it's fucking with me too. Like, how in the fuck how are people living? What are y'all doing? Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, your job going out of business though, that's scary.
Brakes and axles and rotors and whatever the fuck. And then now I just paid my car payment, which is $500. So I just blew $1,100 in like 3 hours. fees. If I were to do public transport, it's like asking to get rate, and I really shouldn't be crying because now I have to go to another work event, and now I'm gonna be all puffy. I'm just, living is so expensive. Just keeping yourself alive and floating is so expensive. And what I was saying before I was rudely interrupted is if I were to take public transport here, especially for my job requires a car. I have to have a bunch of shit that I have to lug with me for work. And I can't do that with public transport. I'm venting. Inflation sucks. Just living in America sucks. Living alone sucks. It's great, but it sucks. Because you have to front all the expenses by yourself. I need a husband just so that I can live. So we can split the bills.